Hi everyone, this is Josh Lockheed, Training Evangelist here at QuoteWerks. Hope that you're having a great day today. I am joined today by Brian Laufer, Vice President here at QuoteWerks, and we're going to be discussing QuoteWerks Web and most specifically the evolution of QuoteWerks Web. So what does that mean? We're going to talk a bit about how we've taken a product that was in its infancy a number of years ago and brought it to one that is essentially a one-for-one parity to what we're able to do on QuoteWerks Desktop. Now, with this, we'll be talking about a number of different topics. I want to point out that while we're going to talk about a number of different topics, we're not going to deep dive into any of those topics in much detail. Although if you do ask a question about something, we'll certainly get a little bit more in depth on that particular topic. With that being said, there's a ton of different information out there for you on how QuoteWerks Web works, and certainly we'll highlight some of those resources that are available to you at the end of this call as well. So just to start off here, we'll talk about some of the housekeeping items. Just know that we are in GoToWebinar here. If you haven't used GoToWebinar before, there's a questions box available to you where you can go click and type a question that you might have. Again, I have Brian Laufer here with me. He'll be helping me to make sure that we're reviewing those questions and either answering them on the call, or if we need to, we can answer them at the end of the call. Or if there's a particular question, we could always take it offline as well if we're not able to address it during the webinar. If at any point after the webinar you want to go back and review the presentation or you want to share it with someone that wasn't able to join today, we will have a recording that'll be in your email box within the next 24 to 48 hours. So without further ado, we'll kick it off and again talk about the evolution of QuoteWerks Web. And when we talk about the evolution of QuoteWerks Web, I think we'd be amiss if we didn't talk about QuoteWerks itself, because QuoteWerks Web really is a part of an evolution of QuoteWerks in general. Now, QuoteWerks itself has been around for over 30 years, founded in 1993. We have over 35,000 active users in over 101 countries. And the QuoteWerks solution was introduced as a desktop-based quoting and proposal tool. Now, what does that mean? The tool itself has been and is used to create, deliver, and manage quotes and proposals. It has a number of different integrations, so CRM, PSA, accounting tools, accounting softwares, as well as payment gateways. Really, the extensibility of the solution is quite great. And there's different components of the solution that have really stood out over the many years that QuoteWerks has been in operation. So one of them is the product content subscription. So being able to pull in rich product content information into your quotes. In concert with real-time and Utilize. Utilize is the ability to bring in real-time pricing and availability from your vendors, and with the product content subscription, combine those two things to really provide some very detailed and well-presented quotes. We also have QuoteValet, which is QuoteWerks' online quote delivery and acceptance vehicle. So it gives you the ability to deliver quotes and proposals via a web page rather than a PDF, and give your customers the ability to not only accept the quote, but make changes to the quote if you allow them to do so, including quantity changes as well as selecting and deselecting optional items. And then what is QuoteWerks Web? QuoteWerks Web is a solution that we're going to be talking about today. And again, a representation of an evolution of the QuoteWerks solution to help meet some needs that were identified as we've continued to evolve over the last 30 years. Now, when we talk about QuoteWerks Web specifically, it enables users to use existing QuoteWerks databases, products, layout settings, and licensing to create quotes in their web browser. So QuoteWerks Web is an add-on to QuoteWerks Desktop, but it can also be used on its own, and we're referring that to Turnkey, so QuoteWerks Web Turnkey. In order to utilize QuoteWerks Web, it does require a QuoteWerks Corporate Edition and valid UMP. QuoteWerks Web also has a monthly or annual subscription option, and you have a number of things that you can do with the QuoteWerks platform that extend beyond what you can do on QuoteWerks Desktop. So the ability to enable single sign-on and multi-factor authentication, again, extending that functionality of desktop to remote users. We're always looking at QuoteWerks Web as a means to develop new features and functions, so we're constantly evolving and always working towards getting to 100% feature parity with a desktop product and continuing to expand upon the things that we currently do to do them better and to make the lives of our customers that much easier. So when it comes to actually using QuoteWerks Web, there are certain things that you're going to need to be familiar with. So kind of setting the foundation for what QuoteWerks Web is. One is the workspace or the document workbook. And this is where you'll have, the workspace is where you have all your different documents, kind of like your desktop for the QuoteWerks Web solution. And then you'll have document workbook, which is where you're actually going to be working with the individual documents, albeit quotes, orders, or invoices. You can do all the same stuff in web as you can in desktop, like creating documents, pulling in products, either from connected product databases or from one of your integrated PSA or CRM solutions. Also, the ability to build bundles and configurations, which is a huge benefit of the QuoteWerks solution. Using contacts, either from the built-in CRM database that we have within QuoteWerks, or potentially integrating with your CRM or your PSA solution as well, or even accounting solutions. In QuoteWerks Web, you have the ability to customize documents by going through in that quote workbook, creating headers, section headers, summary lines, subtotals. The extensibility is quite great there. And then, as I've alluded to here, integrations with a number of the leading CRM and PSAs, including ConnectWise, HaloPSA, Autotask, HubSpot CRM, Salesforce.com, and a number of others. We have over 14 different CRM and PSA integrations, and we regularly demonstrate those in these webinars. So if you have a particular CRM or PSA that you're integrated with, keep an eye out, and I'm sure we'll be covering it in one of these future webinars. And as I've alluded to earlier as well, there's a ton of information out there on the website and on YouTube that can also further inform how we integrate with each of those different CRMs or PSAs. And then I've also alluded to QuoteValet. This is something that is available both on desktop and in web. And in that solution, you're able to, again, create dynamic web page-based quotes that extend the capability of a normal PDF quote to give the customer the ability to interact with it and even accept and pay. And then last but not least here, we also have the ability to create and export POs, so extending beyond the quote to order conversion process and being able to push those POs into your accounting system or potentially your PSA if that's where you manage your POs. Okay, so I am actually going to now talk a little bit about the different ways that the QuoteWerks solution has been deployed over the years. Again, talking more to that evolution concept that we're here today to discuss. So we're going to talk about the deployment options, and the ones that we're going to discuss today, again, start at the most simplest of deployments. So a single PC. We're going to talk about the network installation, terminal server, and cloud hosted, which is what we use when we are delivering the QuoteWerks Web solution. So with that being said, when we talk about a single PC solution, we're really talking about the grassroots of where QuoteWerks came from, right? You've got an individual PC, you've got a single PC there, and you've got an issue of QuoteWerks installed locally on that particular PC. We actually still have digital CDs that are around from back in the day when individuals would load that CD into their desktop and load that software locally. Again, this is the most basic installation or deployment of the software, and it provides single user access to the software. Over time, obviously, we have had users that want to access the same systems and databases for multiple PCs, and that's done utilizing the network node implementation. And this allows you, again, to connect multiple PCs to a single instance of QuoteWerks. This is where QuoteWerks would be installed on a network node on your network. Now, with that being said, this does provide the option to give remote users the ability to connect in, but this does certainly increase the connectivity considerations and the general complexity of the solution. So again, this is an option, and this is how some of our users in the past have gotten to manage their remote workers using QuoteWerks Desktop and a network node implementation. Now, another way that individuals have done the same is by utilizing a terminal server. So very similar in regards to the fact that you're installing somewhere on the network a terminal server application, and that is going to serve out that particular application to your users. Now, in this environment, again, just like when we're talking about the network node. This one is actually a little bit more complex because you're not only managing the connectivity and that particular server, you're also managing the terminal server components of it. And again, it can be complex and requires some enhanced administration. So again, a great solution in its own right, but this is all leading to the evolution of what we have in our cloud hosting offerings. Now with cloud hosting, it takes a lot of that complexity out of the solution, where you have a couple different options of where you're actually storing your databases and the QuoteWerks information. Now I do want to take a moment to just point out that you do have the ability to cloud host, not just with QuoteWerks Web, but with Desktop as well. However, it comes more part of the conversation we're talking about QuoteWerks Web, because it does require you to have some installation of Microsoft SQL in a particular area. So those areas can be, as we note here, we can host it within QuoteWerks. We can also do a third-party hosted solution. So if you wanted to contract with a third party to manage the underlying infrastructure, so IaaS or potentially platform as a service, you can certainly do that. And then the one that really provides the most work on your end, if you're going to decide to do it, is a self-hosted Microsoft SQL. So you do have the ability to host it in your own data center or wherever you might want to host it. This, of course, increases the complexity where you have to manage not just the underlying infrastructure, but the hardware and the software as well. Now, again, QuoteWerks hosted Microsoft SQL is going to provide you with the best experience, and it is going to be the easiest to administer, but you do have these other options as well. And I do also want to point out the fact that regardless of the fact that you're using this cloud-based solution, we've got these laptops here, that you do have the ability to tie in desktop instances to your QuoteWerks Web installation as well. So there's a lot of benefits to using the desktop installation, and there's a lot of companies out there that want to remain using that solution to some extent. It might just be for certain things, but with this solution, with QuoteWerks Web, you do have the ability to not only connect to remote users, but also to users that are running the desktop software as well. Now, I know I've been talking quite a bit and quite quickly for a while. I'm going to take a quick look and see if we have any questions. I don't see any questions here yet, and I'll ask, Brian, do you have anything that you wanted to add before we move on here?
No, I think you're covering everything quite well.
Okay, great. We're going to kind of change gears then. Again, talking about the evolution in these previous slides, we're going to now talk about the actual enhancements that have been made throughout the course of 2024 and in the beginning here of 2025. I'm not going to read all of them, but we are actually going to go through close to half of these when we go into our demo, just to show you what can be done in QuoteWerks Web. A couple of them that we're not going to cover that I do want to point out is the QWW turnkey, so the QuoteWerks Web turnkey solution, the ability to implement the QuoteWerks Web solution without necessarily having an instance of desktop. Another one I'll point out there is the DKIM. So DKIM is Domain Keys Identified Mail, something that we've given you an option to also configure, and as it relates to when you're sending emails in and out of QuoteWerks. This is something that a lot of people have discussed in the past as being something they'd like to see, and I thought I'd just highlight it here. Again, although we're not going to go into it in detail today, or all of these in detail today, all of this information is included in the help files, and there's likely a help video available out there as well that can show you how each of these function. Again, if you have any questions about any of these, feel free to ask them, or you can reach out to our team at any time to learn a little bit more. So I think I would be amiss if I didn't notice or acknowledge the fact that there is still more work to be done. There are some things that we are actually actively doing to try and continue the evolution of QuoteWerks Web. We're expanding our integrations. One of the things that you would see if you went to the customer section of our website, the customer area, would be that we are working on a Pipedrive integration, which is actually really exciting. Always looking to identify how we can integrate with other CRMs, PSA, accounting solutions, and so on and so forth. We are also pretty well along the ways of developing a web-based layout designer. So I think it's important to mention that, one of the things that you would want to do in the desktop if you're utilizing QuoteWerks Web is if you are designing layouts, you'd likely want to utilize the desktop solution today. But within within the future, I don't want to give a particular time frame, but you'll see that capability is going to be also included in the web product as well. Another thing on that customer area is Ingram Micro online ordering. So right now you do have the ability, as we outlined there in the enhancements, to do some form of purchasing. In this case, it'd be the creation of POs in QuoteWerks Web, but you will be able to also do online ordering directly in QuoteWerks Web as soon as we complete that development as well. And then I also wanted to point out two other things. We have a price comparison window, which is coming out in one of our upcoming releases, as well as a contact wizard import. So there's a lot more to come. This is just a look into it, but you can expect to see a lot more features that are going to be integrated, additional integrations, and additional things that you're used to seeing on desktop showing up in QuoteWerks Web as well. So just to talk a little bit about the benefits of QuoteWerks Web, I think the deployment options slides kind of showed this, but the real benefit here is the access anytime, anywhere with limited complexity. Having the full features of desktop and a web product. Again, looking at those deployment options, decrease time and effort to deploy and manage because you have a centralized installation. We have an updated intuitive UI. Now, with that being said, for those of you that have used the desktop product before, although it's updated and intuitive, it's very similar to what you're used to seeing in QuoteWerks Desktop. So the learning curve is really not that great if it's someone that's going from using desktop and coming into using QuoteWerks Web. One of the things that is required in order to use QuoteWerks Web is to be on a Microsoft SQL backend. And one of the just built-in benefits of utilizing QuoteWerks Web is that Microsoft SQL backend provides some enhancements over other installations that might utilize an Access backend. So this is going to give you that benefit there. And then there are multiple deployment options, which we discussed as well, which would be the self-hosted, the third-party hosted, or the QuoteWerks hosted Microsoft SQL. So we're going to move to getting into a little bit more information here about the features that I want to highlight today. I'm just taking a look to see if we have any questions that should be addressed here. And I see that Brian has been answering some questions, nothing that I think necessarily needs to be bubbled up at the moment. But Brian, if you do see anything, feel free to jump in.
I'll let you know.
Thank you. All right, so the feature spotlight today, what are we going to be talking about? We are going to highlight multiple contact support, unified QuoteValet Setup, Configurator in QuoteWerks Web, Bundles in QuoteWerks Web, some new integrations with QuoteWerks Web, including Act for Web and HaloPSA, a brief overview of the QuickBooks Online integration, and then we're going to talk a little bit about purchasing in QuoteWerks Web, which I alluded to a bit earlier as well. So I am now going to go ahead and open up my QuoteWerks Web environment. You should all see my workspace here. Now again, the workspace is going to be where all of your documents are going to be stored. So if you've got multiple documents that are open, they're all contained in this workspace area. So you can have up to 5 documents open at any time. And when we talked about the document workbook, we're talking about this here. So the ability to actually go in and work with a particular quote, invoice, order, so on and so forth. So the first thing I wanted to point out here is we've talked about CRMs, and when we talk about CRMs, we're really talking about storing contact information, managing contact information at its most basic level, and being able to use that contact information on quotes. Now, QuoteWerks does have a native built-in contact manager. It's a lightweight contact manager. But that being said, there have been some new enhancements, and I want to talk about the enhancement that we introduced, which is the support for multiple contacts. So what I've done is I've gone to my setup, CRM integrations, and I've ensured that I have QuoteWerks selected as my primary CRM integration. And when I do that, if I were to go and search the contact database, it's going to go ahead and search the QuoteWerks contact database, which is built into QuoteWerks. Now, one of the great things about the QuoteWerks database, again, is it's a lightweight database that you're able to store contact information in, and it gives you the ability to really parse through contacts in a pretty detailed way. So you've got a number of different fields that are preset here, where you could use different operators to find companies. And then you've got these other fields where you can actually go in and use really a number of different fields that are tied to the company and contact tables in QuoteWerks to find the different companies. One thing I'll point out, and again, we're talking about this idea of multiple contact support, is that you'll see that we've got, for example, with commercial press, we've got a gentleman here, Emerson, with a P next to his name. That means he's the primary contact on this particular account. However, you'll notice that there are other individuals that are listed under this account as well. Those are going to be secondary contacts. So with the introduction of multiple contact support, what we've given you the ability to do is not just have a one-to-one relationship between the company and contact, but to be able to have multiple contacts with a single company. So for example, if we were to go to Computer Hut and edit that company here, we can see that we can go in and put information about the company, edit that information, but we also have the ability to come in and create new contacts, clone existing contacts to create a new contact from existing contact details. We can edit the contacts, delete those contacts, and also send one-off emails to those contacts as well. Also on this company page, we have the ability to remove a company record if that's something you'd like to do. It's important to understand that if you do remove a company record, it is going to remove all the contact records for that company as well. So important to keep that in mind. Another thing I just want to point out here on the company page is that you have these other tabs. So if you had any custom text, number, or date fields that you wanted to associate with this particular company, you could do that here. And then we also have notes fields where you can go in and put specific notes either as running notes or individual notes in order to be able to keep track of your communication with that company. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Now, if you did want to go in and edit a contact specifically, you don't actually have to click into that company page. You could come and click on that contact directly and hit Edit Contact, and then you'll see we've got all of the contact fields here, as well as our custom text and notes fields that are associated directly with this individual contact. Again, you'll see that he's listed as a primary contact, but we do have other contacts on the account, and those would be listed not as primary contacts, and you can always toggle that by just selecting is primary. So again, I just want to introduce the fact that you have the ability to create multiple contacts for multiple users. Paul asked a question, what about multiple shipping locations for an order? That is also possible to be done here. So if we wanted, we could have multiple contacts for a particular company at different locations. So all you would need to do is, let's say, select Emerson as your sold to contact. And let's say that our ship to address was actually 25 Uni Way. We could then go ahead and select Gina here as our ship to contact.
Now, I think to answer Paul's question there, actually, he was asking if you could have multiple shipping addresses on a single order going out, which really is not. So this is definitely an option, but what you can do is you can actually have, like in QuoteWerks, we have the ability to have 3 different address fields in QuoteWerks: sold to, ship to, and bill to. For those that need to have multiple addresses, you can assign like the sold to being location A, the ship to being location B, and the bill to be location C, and you can rename those in the actual tabs themselves so that that's the way it is, and then you can separate it out per line item. But beyond that, there's not a way to actually have multiple addresses to ship to. That's not something we really get a lot of requests for.
That's a good point, Brian. And this is just another thought that I have along those lines is if you are going and using the purchasing module, you can split up orders to be sent to multiple customer locations as well, correct? So would that be another way to do that?
Yeah, you could definitely do it like that. When you're placing the online order, you would have that ability.
Yep.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a message to Paul to send us a message offline so we can answer his question a little bit better.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate that question, Paul. And thanks, Brian, for your help. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is actually representative more than just what it is, and I'll explain what I'm saying when I say that. If we go over to Setup and then Options, I've introduced the fact that we have this feature called QuoteValet. QuoteValet is where you can deliver interactive quotes to your customers via a web page rather than a flat PDF. Now, what we've done is we've implemented a new way in which we're managing the settings for QuoteValet, and we've actually done this with a couple other things, and is likely going to be the way that things are done as we continue to develop new features. This particular page is a shared settings page with our desktop product. So whether you're going from the desktop or you're accessing this particular portion of QuoteWerks through QuoteWerks Web, it's going to look the same. And that's, again, from a cosmetic perspective, a good thing, from users being able to know where things are and navigate regardless of which platform they're on. But there's a lot of benefit to that behind the scenes as well, and that we're providing shared setting services for both QuoteWerks Desktop and QuoteWerks Web, just furthering the integration and the cross communication and cross work that can be done between those two platforms. When we talk specifically about this QuoteValet Setup page, it's really just extending the functionality that we've previously had in desktop to be able to go in and set up your different settings for QuoteValet. So those include the ability to upload your logo, to change your CNAME, to create or to select your templates here for your QuoteValet pages. Payment processing is also here, auto reminder notifications. And then also under this would be something like email settings, which is DKIM, which I discussed a bit earlier. Again, I'm not going to go into any of these in a lot of detail unless there's some interest from the group. But again, I wanted to point out this unified QuoteValet setup window because it is now available in QuoteWerks Web, and it does have that shared setting service, which is an exciting thing for us here at QuoteWerks. Another thing I wanted to point out, which if you have used QuoteWerks Desktop in the past, you might be familiar with, but it is a relatively new thing here in QuoteWerks Web, and that's the configurator. So the configurator is a really cool tool in that it allows you to create different rule-based workflows as to how you want a particular quote to be created. So for example, we have this entertainment system option here. What we can do is we can go in and edit that or create from brand new a configuration that will be created based on rules that we set. So this is a complex thing to some extent, and there's a lot of rules that need to be developed and set. But I want to just note the fact that this is something that in the past was not available to be done on web. It is now, and it's actually very powerful. Again, you have the ability to create these workflows. So for example, we've got our first step in the process here where we would have a certain number of selections that the individuals would be able to select from. And then when they make those selections, it would bring them to a bucket of selections based on the selection that they made. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail about the actual use of the configurator or how you might build them, but I just want to point out the fact that, again, this is now something that's available in web, and you can do all the same things that you would in desktop and create these new configuration workflows as well.
Real quick before you go on there, if you could go back to the flowchart real quick.
Certainly.
And like right-click on receivers. And then do trace from here. This is something that's cool that only web has. It'll actually show you the full path that you can take. So I should have said to go to the first one. I forgot which direction it went from. So it'll show you all the different paths that you can take to go through that configuration, showing you all the different places that it can end as well, which is just a cool little feature.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for pointing that out, Brian. Awesome. So the output of a configuration is going to be a bundle, and a bundle is a group of products that can either be logically grouped together or just inserted as a group onto a quote. And there are simple or grouped bundles. And the reason I mention simple or grouped bundles is because another thing that we've introduced into QuoteWerks Web is the idea of bundles. And I think that bundles is actually a really powerful tool that can be used to do a number of different things. But its real focus is if you are quoting things on a regular basis with some minimal changes that you need to make to it. You have the ability to go in there and pre-configure bundles. So I'll just run you through an example of one that I put together, and that's a desktop bundle. What I have the ability to do here is if I were to go and hit new, I'm going to see a very similar page to what I see here when I hit edit. I have the ability to set either a simple or grouped bundle. Simple bundle is just going to insert those products that are a part of the bundle into the quote, whereas a grouped bundle is going to have a header line, and they're all going to be kind of logically tied together. Now, what you do in order to build a bundle is pretty simple. You just go into the product lookup window, and you're going to search for products. You're going to add them to the bundle, and you're going to determine what order you want them to display on the quote and what quantities you want to display. If you're in a situation where you're going to go ahead and, let's say, quote out a desktop bundle and it's part of your normal spec, all you would need to do is come into here, click on the desktop bundle, click add or insert, choose the quantity of that bundle you want to put in there, and it's going to insert those into the quote. And you'll see it's actually going out to our real-time vendors to get the real-time pricing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that line. And you can see that we have our full desktop bundle here. So again, if you've got a kit or a standard configuration that you're sending out to customers on a regular basis, even if you have to make a couple adjustments by deleting or adding lines, this is a great place to start and could save you a lot of time. All right. So as I mentioned, we do have some new integrations that we've introduced here in QuoteWerks Web. So I'm going to go ahead and click over to the CRM integrations section under Setup. And this is where we went earlier to select QuoteWerks as our CRM integration. What I'm going to do here is we're going to start with Act for Web. So we're going to go ahead and click on Act for Web and hit OK. Now, when we're initially setting up Act for Web, if we wanted, we could, what we're going to want to do, I should say, is to come in and set up our connection. We're also going to want to come in and set up our defaults as well. So this is going to determine what actions are taken when, what information is included in what fields, how do we handle part numbers that aren't fully filled out, how do we want the line item information to be passed over to the opportunity. There's a lot of different things that you would come in and set here. Again, I'm not going to get into too much detail about the minutia, but I wanted to point the fact out that you have the ability to set those settings. And we're just going to confirm, yep, we do have Act for Web selected, and we're going to come back over here. Now, the Act for Web integration has a number of different integration points. One of them is the ability to come in and to either pull a new contact or pull an existing contact out of your contact database within Act for Web, or to create a new company and contact as well. So if I were to just come in here and type new company and contact, when we start putting in some address information here, you'll see that a new button comes available to us. It's this gold N. And if we were to hit this and this company and contact don't exist in Act for Web, we would actually create it there in Act for Web for you and associate that contact with this particular quote as well. Now, the other option that we have is if we click here on the magnifying glass, we can search for that company in the Act for Web company database. And you'll see the interface itself looks similar to the QuoteWerks native database. We're just querying a different system, right? And here we've got Ryan Dan. We'll bring him in as our sold to, shipped to, billed to contact. Also point out the fact that we have address verification. So if you wanted to map it to your zip+4. You could do that here via the USPS database. And there's some new enhancements as well, like being able to show this particular contact in Google Maps. So if you wanted to find a location and directions to that location, you can easily do that. And as I showed that new contact being entered in here, if you're working with somebody and you want to insert their information via your clipboard, you can do that as well. As a pretty nifty tool that actually parses through text strings and figures out what should go in which field here. So just highlighting a couple things that have been added, actually both to QuoteWerks Web and QuoteWerks Desktop within the last 6 months to a year. So here we are in the Act for Web integration. We've pulled in our contact. We've got our products here. We can easily save this, and this is where it's going to kick off the integration with Act for Web for our sales opportunities as well as our follow-up activities. So one important piece whenever you're working with a CRM PSA is to just make sure that you have it online. If you're offline, it's just not going to communicate with the integration. But in this case, we want to create these. So I am going to go online and I'm going to select Create Update Sales Opportunity. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a follow-up call as well. The process of doing a meeting and to-do are very similar. So I'm just going to kind of show you how you can do that. And this little message I got came up basically yelling at me because I'm switching between CRMs so frequently. But again, here we've got our Act for Web opportunity creation. So when we're saving the opportunity, it's going to kick off either creating a new Act for Web opportunity or connecting to an existing opportunity. As I mentioned, we have our defaults that we can set to populate the different fields that are in here, but you can certainly come in and change those as you would like as well. And you can also put in notes, and it'll pull out information from your system as well here in Act for Web, so you can denote a particular competitor as well. So when I hit OK, that's actually going to kick off that integration with Act for Web. And then it's going to come over here and ask us what we want that web call activity to be. And in this case, we'll make it a call. As I mentioned before, and as you saw in the save quote window, we can do a call, meeting, or to-do, or all three. And you have the ability to schedule those out. So we would say, hey, end of next week, early morning, we want to make sure that we give them a call and follow up on quote, explore next steps. And this is going to actually put in a scheduled reminder with an alarm for this particular user in Act for Web. So you can see how we've very quickly created an opportunity, customized some of the information that's going into that opportunity, and also created that follow-up activity as well. We have the ability when we're in the document workbook to go over to the links tab, and you'll see that we have some links to the company information in Act for Web, as well as to newly created opportunity. And this is actually a really good time saver, because instead of having to go out and actually log back in and hit the URL for Act for Web, you just click on that button there, and it's going to bring you directly to that opportunity in Act for Web. You'll see that our products have come over in our Act for Web opportunity here. We've got our contact associated with it. It's got our activities, any history that we have for that particular customer, including previous history, and a lot of information is included here that you can go back and reference. And I also do want to point out the fact that we do have the ability to come in and look at the DTF file, as well as the actual PDF that we're sending out to the customer, if it's sent to the customer via PDF. So that is a high level of the Act for Web integration. As I mentioned, we also now have a HaloPSA integration as well. So I'm going to go back and toggle. Well, before I do that, let me exit this particular quote that we just created, bring us back to our workspace. And now I'll go over to CRM integrations and instead click HaloPSA. Now, I will note that a lot of the things that we just did in Act for Web are also able to be done with HaloPSA, including the ability to go in and change your settings here under HaloPSA. Again, I'm not going to go ahead and do that right now, but there is a lot of content on the website and in training videos that can show you how to do that specifically. So when it comes to our HaloPSA integration, one of the things that differentiates the HaloPSA integration from the Act for Web integration is we do have the ability to pull in products directly from our HaloPSA data source. So let's say that I was working with a customer and wanted to quote out a particular product, let's say a Cisco switch, and I know that they use the 3560s over in that location. I could come in and easily add it to the quote. What's great about this is we're pulling it directly out of the HaloPSA system. I almost said Act for Web, sorry. And it's including a lot of information about that product with it. So it's going to include the cost, the price, the description, the manufacturer part number, and a number of other things. And there's additional fields that can be brought over from Act for Web and HaloPSA respectively as well. And I'll show you how that can be done in just a few minutes here. So I'm going to add in that Cisco switch, and you can see that it's been brought over into our quote with all the information that we might need. And again, that's a representation of querying the HaloPSA items database to be able to pull in a particular product. Now, that being said, you can have those be products, you can have them be services, and they're all able to be selected and added to the quote quickly, as you just saw there. Just like with Act for Web, we can go in and we can search our contacts, and we'll go ahead and search for Computer Hut here in our HaloPSA database. So same contact, different database. We'll bring them in as our contact here. Note that you can do all the same things that we talked about with with Act for Web. So you can come in, you can show in Google Maps, you can copy from clipboard, you can create a new contact in HaloPSA, company in contact if you'd like to do that as well. All really cool features that we have here. Now, in addition to being able to do that, we also have the ability to save opportunities, create and update opportunities in HaloPSA. So we'll go ahead and do that. And you'll see that there's also an option for us to create or update a quote in HaloPSA as well. So we'll go ahead and go through that process quickly to show you how that works. Again, we have the ability to either create a new opportunity or link to an existing opportunity and set defaults and change them as needed in these different fields. I'm going to go ahead and click through. That's going to create the opportunity in HaloPSA. And then this is the same process with our quote in HaloPSA, assigning an agent, days to deliver, PO number, all these different things can be set here. So I'm going to hit save, and that's going to create that quote in HaloPSA as well. So just like we did with Act for Web, if we go over to the links tab, you'll see that we have additional links here, both to the clients, which are kind of like companies in HaloPSA, and the users, which are kind of like contacts in HaloPSA. So just a little bit more granularity as to which records you can get to. And then in addition to having a link to the opportunity, we also have a link to the quote that was just recently created in HaloPSA as well. So I'm going to go ahead and view that opportunity in HaloPSA. And here we have the details from that opportunity coming over. You can see that we have our probability, our type, our status, pipeline stage. It's all been brought over. And then we also have a link to the quotation here as well. Now, one of the great things about the HaloPSA QuoteWerks integration is that there are very granular ways in which you can mirror your processes using the integration. And one example of that is you do have an option that when you do convert a opportunity to an order, that's automatically going to create a sales order for you. So that's one example of kind of the extensibility of the solution. So here what we're doing is we're converting this opportunity to one and closing it in HaloPSA. I do have it selected so that it would create a sales order for me. So if we actually go through that process of closing the opportunity as one and we come back to the opportunity itself and refresh, we'll now see we have these attachments in here, so the DTF files, but under details, you'll see in addition to the quotation that we now have a sales order as well, and from that sales order, we can create an invoice, add this item to a project, or create a PO as well. So that is a pretty high-level overview of the HaloPSA integration. There are a number of other things that you can do with it. Unless you directly use HaloPSA, then it might not be as important to you. But again, there's a lot of information on our website. There's a lot of videos that have been created recently that show you how to do all these different things that we just reviewed and more. Just taking a look to see if there's anything that we would like to review here from the questions list. I see Brian's been addressing a number of more niche questions that we might be getting in.
Actually, I'll go ahead and take one right now because
Okay.
it's something that some people will probably be having as well. George had a question. What is required to convert from a QuoteWerks Corporate Edition network install to be cloud-based? And how do existing bundles and required items get transferred? So the great thing about how we've implemented QuoteWerks Web with our database hosting, George, is the fact that all you need to do is sign up for our database hosting as well as our the QuoteWerks Web subscription, and everything gets migrated up to the cloud. So everything will go up, all your existing settings, including like when you go to tools options, all those settings are exactly the same between desktop and web. All of your bundles will get migrated over as well as your required items as well. So it's a pretty seamless migration.
Great. Thanks, Brian. And thanks for that question. All right, so we've got two more items that I wanted to review with you today. They're both in some ways related. One is QuickBooks online integration. The other one is purchasing. Just like with all of our integrations, you have the ability to go in and granularly administer those integrations by determining what settings you want to set. In the case of our accounting integrations, we just need to go to Setup, Options, and then Accounting, and this would be where we would set our link type. Right now we're integrating with QuickBooks Online, and you can see that the status of our integration is connected. And we also here have QuickBooks selected as our accounting integration, right? So if we go over to the workspace, what we're able to do is to click into the QuickBooks icon, and we can go through any of our orders. We can do a single order, we can do batch orders, we can search through the orders based on date ranges, sales rep, so on and so forth, or we can find by document number. And what we're able to do is export these over to QuickBooks. Now this is the exportation of documents. If you do have it set up to accept payments via QuoteValet, you can also export those over to QuickBooks as well. And it's a relatively simple process. You just select the order or orders that you'd like to send over, and you click export. It's going to go through the process of verifying the information. It's going to look at the systems and say, hey, here's the tax rate on the QuoteWerks document. Here's what we're getting from QuickBooks. What do you want to do? We can determine what we want to do there and go from there. And then assuming everything goes through properly, the order will be exported over to QuickBooks, and then you can do your normal handling of that order and invoicing from QuickBooks directly. Now, the other option that I said I wanted to review is purchasing. Now, it's important to note that what you have the ability to do here in web currently is you can submit purchase orders via QuoteWerks. So for example, if we wanted to, we could come in and select our either currently open order or multiple orders. In this case, I'll select multiple orders. And let's say that you do business with Ingram Micro and you wanted to submit an order for Ingram Micro. What this does is it gives us a list of the different products that are on order with Ingram Micro, and we could further drill down that list by customer, ticket number, sales order number, or the dates in which the orders were submitted. And we can go through, and again, all of these products that we have listed here are from our vendor Ingram Micro. We could select any number of products that we wanted to include on that PO to Ingram Micro, and we'll have Ingram Micro's contact and vendor information stored in the QuoteWerks system. So all we need to do again is select those items. I'm going to kind of only do a couple here, and we can hit Create PO. Now there's a lot of different things that you can set. One of them is if, let's say, you have a order minimum for free shipping. In this case, I've set it to $1,000 to say that Ingram Micro will provide us with free shipping above $1,000 order. In this case, it's just giving you that notification, hey, you've not met that threshold. Just be aware. You can either click no and add more products, or if you click yes, it'll bring you through. This note here is just indicating that you can submit orders electronically to Ingram Micro. And again, in this case, that'd be one of those things that you'd want to do on the desktop if you're electronically ordering. But in QuoteWerks Web, currently we have this ability to, again, create the purchase orders with that Ingram Micro online ordering coming in the near future. So with the PO number here, we can input our PO number, or we can automatically use a generated PO number, which I'll decide to do. And then you have the ability to do a number of different things here. You can set the ref ID, the flooring account, description. You can set the sales order number, the DISTI sales order number, as well as the ship to information. You can copy that information from the different fields from the document as well. And you can even add some PO notes here as well. But very simple process. We've got this configured. We hit OK, and we have our PO that's now available. If we wanted, we could either just save this PO and then do with it what we'd like, or we can come in and email this PO directly from QuoteWerks. And you can see that it's actually been populated with my vendor contact that I have loaded in QuoteWerks, so John Smith over at im.com. And we have our purchase order template, which has been updated to include our products and is a purchase order with that purchase order number that we can deliver directly to the vendor from the email here in QuoteWerks. Now, in addition to being able to send those POs over, you have the ability to also monitor POs that have been sent or submitted. So if you wanted, you can come in and click into a particular order. You could receive those items. You can add tracking numbers, serial numbers, so on and so forth. And that can all be done here within the purchase orders window. And then on the ordered items window, this is where you can go through and look specifically for items that have been ordered based on a ton of different criteria. So we've casted a wide net on our webinar today. We've gone over a lot of different topics. This is more of a generic review of features and functions, so I kind of expect that to be the case, but I hope that you've learned a lot about what QuoteWerks Web can do. And for those of you that either use desktop or have looked at QuoteWerks Web in the past, you're going to notice that there's been a lot of enhancements over the months and years. Again, if you have any questions, you can pop them into the box here. Raf asked about a time frame. I'm not going to commit to any time frames here, Raf. My apologies, but I can tell you that it is all the things that I've mentioned that are in development. They're on our customer area on the website. They are being worked on. I'd like to be able to give you a firm number, but I don't think that's possible right now. But in the near future, we would say.
Yeah, and I'm answering Ralph's question as well. So one of the things when it comes to QuoteWerks Web development is that we're developing things in a very logical way. And the great thing about it is it allows us to continue to develop both QuoteWerks Desktop and QuoteWerks Web at the same time. So like when we added the HaloPSA integration, once HaloPSA was in desktop, it was very shortly after that we had it in web as well. And that's what's cool about the way that we're implementing everything. And different things will come up, different priorities will happen. So sometimes, we will have like a new CRM integration that'll jump the line, or, we might go ahead and decide, oh, it makes sense for us to go ahead and add that Ingram online ordering at this point. So it just depends on, what's happening as far as our existing customers and what's available in our development pipeline as well. So that's why we don't like to give timeframes. I've been here for almost 25 years, and I've seen where sometimes an opportunity comes up that makes the most sense to go ahead and implement, even though it's delaying a bigger goal that we have, but it ends up helping the community faster than implementing the smaller feature first.
One thing that I can definitely commit to is as those things come available, you will certainly see information from us talking about them and likely doing future webinars and tutorial videos on them as well. So certainly keep an eye open for those.
Yeah, and the other thing too is if you're ever wondering, okay, so what are the guys at QuoteWerks working on these days? You can always go to our customer area on our website. We have a product roadmap right there, and you'll see what's top on our list right now.
Yep. Yeah, I think I've actually mentioned pretty much all of these in our presentation today.
Yeah, I think you have.
But this is actually a really good point, Brian, because this is one of the resources that I talk about is just the ability to come in and see what's included in the different releases we have. And I got to say, you do a really good job in logically including not just what it is, but links to additional resources, videos, the help topic. So this is a really good place to keep an eye out, and always a good idea as well. I'll just mention to upgrade to the latest release if that's something that you can do as well. So let me just hop back over to the presentation here, and just a couple things I want to point out. I don't need to review these specifically, but we've got some best practices. Bookmark the na.quoteworks.com so individuals can get out to that website. Make sure that your SQL environment meets the QuoteWerks minimum requirements if you're hosting it yourself. Always a good idea to have one user per account or one user account per person, and then log out of each session. And then if you're making changes to layouts or things like that on the desktop, you can always sync those documents up if they're changing. And then some other best practices. If you make a change and it's not reflected, log out, log back in. There are certain things that would require you to log out and log back in. And if you're trying to change an administrative setting or do something else that's not available in web, check desktop. It'll likely be in web soon. And then again, I mentioned this before, but I would be amiss if I didn't say it again. Upgrade to the latest version and build, and that's going to help you take advantage of the latest features and improvements. And I have mentioned a number of resources today. Some of those that I did not mention that I'll highlight here is on that customer area. We do have a QuoteWerks forum, so if you wanted to get out there and interact with other users or ask a question of the community, you're more than welcome to do that. I also want to point out the fact that we have a tips and tricks email as well. So each month we send out an email that highlights a different feature or function of the QuoteWerks software. I believe this month was purchasing. We've done QuoteValet and a number of other areas where, again, there are deep dives into these different areas. And I'd certainly suggest signing up to get that email if you want to stay up to date on the most recent happenings here at QuoteWerks. Now, one of the great things that we do here at QuoteWerks is we like to make ourselves accessible to our customers. So if you have any questions, you're always welcome to reach out to our tech support team or our sales team. And if there's anything specific to this webinar that you'd like to follow up on, you've got the community at QuoteWerks.com. Brian and I both monitor that mailbox and be happy to review any questions we get there.
And then also I wanted to add, if you do have like a feature request or there's an integration that you'd like to see us add, on our forum we do have a feature request area, and that is the best way to get a new feature requested, because the great thing about that is that once you go ahead, actually if you scroll down, oh, that'll work too. So the great thing about it is when you make a feature request on there, not only can other members of the community upvote it, add comments, make suggestions, but our development team, as we're writing the integration, we can ask questions right there as well. It includes pictures and videos and that thing, and that sort of back and forth dialogue that's helpful to make sure that we're not just creating that feature that'll be helpful for one or two users, but something that'll be helpful for the entire community.
Great. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that color. I don't see any other questions that have come in. So with that being the case and it being just about top of the hour, I'd like to thank everybody for joining our webinar today. And again, if you have any follow-up questions, you'll be receiving the email with the recording if you'd like to review it, or always feel free to reach out to us if you have questions, community@QuoteWerks.com. So thanks everyone, and hope you have a good rest of the day.